to What You Don't See, the podcast. And this episode is for all of the hustlers, the boss babes, the people who want the side hustle. We're going to be sharing from 3 different entrepreneurs, business owners, our financial tips, our side hustle secrets, and all of the mistakes that we've learned along the way so that you all don't have to make the mistakes. So Ingrid is in the restaurant business. Mm-hmm. Sarah is in the HVAC business, heating,
plumbing, electrical, refrigeration, and pest 24/7. Sorry, I had to do the
ad. And then I'm in the legal field, plus I'm also in retail and real estate. Mm-hmm. So we have a plethora of information to share. And so what is like some advice that we can give to somebody just starting out their business? Like money advice, like specific money advice. Let's start with you, Sarah.
Okay. Well, make sure you don't try to scale too fast for your britches.
What does scale mean? Because that used to confuse me. Like, what does the word scale mean?
So that's when you're growing business and you're doing really well, and then you take on a few too many jobs, and you don't have enough cash flow to maintain, not getting paid from a couple of jobs, especially in my field, right? Because of the field that we're in, it's in construction. And so sometimes it takes a while. Like last year was really hard for me because equipment took a long time to come in, but that's later when you have like a longer time in business, right? But equipment took a longer time to come in. So I couldn't do jobs. I had to wait 22 weeks, sometimes 30 some weeks to do a job, but I had to pay out of pocket the cash flow to pay for the equipment to get it ordered, especially with all the generator fiasco. I mean, I had generators sitting out waiting to come in for a year.
I don't know what the generator. But after the freeze, everybody.
We had 100 calls a day for generator quotes. Not that many installs, but we had 100 calls a day for generator quotes. But that's something else. Anyways, money tips. So when you're doing a business, I would say do have a nice little cash flow, save some money, put some money aside, and then live on a budget. My parents lived on a budget when they started the business. I mean, my parents did not pay themselves so that they could pay employees to help grow the company until there was enough cash to be able to float to pay themselves a fee. So you have to really be smart and you have to be willing to sacrifice.
Yep.
That's exactly how I started. Like with that mentality of like old school mentality, my parents were all about saving. Maybe my mom, not so much. She likes to spend,
but I like to spend too.
but my dad, my grandparents, specifically my grandma and my dad's mom, always taught me how to save. Like always, like save some money. And when I started the restaurant, the first Healing Factory, we started with a cooler as a freezer because I literally started with $3,000. Like, how did I start with a credit card? Like, I had no money saved because I had just closed the old Healing Factory, which was like the yoga studio, and it was just like a bunch of money that I lost. So, yes, always start, small, simple, basic, and yeah, us too. We would pay ourselves last, like all the time. I probably didn't make no profits whatsoever, like within the first 2 years maybe of opening a restaurant.
I've heard restaurants are really hard.
I think it's top 3 of like the toughest businesses to open. And imagine a vegan restaurant in the valley. In the valley.
Oh, we have our tacos.
So yeah, so it was super, super tough. But of course, everybody thinks, because they see it on social media, right? Like they see the success, they see the accomplishments, they see, the positive stuff. But they don't see what's like under that, they just see like above the iceberg, and you don't know, all the struggle.
I'm like a duck.
What you don't see, that's like, there's a lot of stuff that you don't see, that we all go through, So that's definitely, I agree on that tip. Start small, don't scale as fast, and take care of your people first.
Take care of your people first.
For me, I think what really helped me grow and not be drowning in debt was keeping my overhead as low as possible. You know what I mean? My first computer as a lawyer was a refurbished computer that my dad found for me for like $200. That was my first computer as an attorney. My first printer as an attorney was a printer from Walmart that cost $100, and that was my office. The computer, the printer, and my personal cell phone was my office, right? That was my, I guess, what is it called? Like equipment, right? And then I was renting a small office for $500 a month. And like what I do is like a lot of, I guess, manpower, brain power. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like there's not a whole lot of products. I don't sell retail. I don't sell products. I sell services. So that was key for me in being able to keep overhead low. And then also when I was making money, I was reinvesting it back into my business. For the first 3, maybe 4 years, I was not. Like you said, people see my purses, my clothes, my trips, my everything, right? And they think, wow, she must have just been an overnight success. I wasn't buying those things for the first 3 years that I was in business. I was reinvesting it right back into advertising, billboards,
branding.
It takes discipline to do that, because when people make money, they want to go buy things. They want to go buy the nicest car, the nicest clothes, the nicest shoes. It takes discipline to be like, okay, I'm not going to do those things until I've met certain financial goals in my business, and then I can start doing those things. And that takes a lot of discipline. So like one of my biggest financial tips is like willpower and discipline. You have to be able to reinvest your money to keep your business growing.
Right.
And be careful with like overspending, like you said. Start small and watch your expenses.
Yeah. So when would y'all say is the best, like where were you financially when you decided to hire your first employee?
Well, I came into a business. I mean, you guys started your businesses, right? I came into a business that was already made. So my dad had the business, and I came in 2008 in January. But I came in because that was the hardest part of the economy. And my dad was thinking of closing. And so he said, "Mija, I think I'm going to close." He had about $600,000 in accounts receivable, money that hadn't been paid to him. It was the recession, and it was hard. And so I said, "Let me see what I can do for you, Dad. I'm good at collecting. I'm good
at getting money.
Let me get in and let me see what I can do to help you." And so I did. And that's when I came in, and then I looked at different ways to bring in extra income, started branding the company in a different way, and then was able to grow it and scale it from there. So it was different for me because they already had an office. I just had to restructure and then see about revamping. And every now and then you need to go back into your business. I mean, we've been around for 41 years now. So you have to go back into your business and like, okay, how do I regrow this? Or how do I shift and change the company? Especially because with nowadays, things like they're closed, like they're gone. Like, you know, the way you used to work is no longer the same. Even in the HVAC industry, it's not the same as it used to be. Now there's a lot more technical little manuals and modes and stuff like that you have to, you know, get aligned to. So yeah, you have to continually learn in your business. That's one thing I will say, that if you're doing a business, study it and get into the industry conferences. Go to where the tips are at, to the latest trends, because you have to stay on top of all of those things. You have to invest in yourself, in the business.
You have to stay relevant, and it takes a lot of continuing education that I think a lot of people, they don't invest in that. They don't invest in continuing education and going to those conferences, those workshops,
retreats.
all of those things that teach you how to scale a business or teach you like financial tips, because I wasn't a business major. You know what I mean? I started this business knowing nothing about business. I didn't know accounting. I knew the law, but I didn't even know that much about the law. I had just graduated from law school. You know what I mean? So I was learning how to be a business owner and a lawyer all at the same time, making a ton of mistakes. I didn't know about taxes. I didn't know.
Running a business is real.
It's real.
It's real.
I think if it was an easy thing to do, a lot of people would open businesses, but it really takes like tough people to run it, and a lot of like perseverance, it's like a roller coaster. Having a business is a roller coaster. One day, for example, in the restaurant business, it's like a Monday, and let's say you make like $1,000, and then you're like, yes, I already paid my staff. This is like my produce money. I'm set. tomorrow's gonna be like all for me. And then the next day comes, it's like Tuesday, and you make like $300, you know?
Yeah.
So you barely make the money
Like,
to cover whatever you needed to
yeah.
cover that day. So
And people don't understand that the expense is not just, okay, I'm going to pocket the money. Like in my industry, HVAC, not that I want to just turn it to air conditioning, right? But in the industry of HVAC, you pay for the equipment. And sometimes technicians are like, oh my God, you're pocketing so much income. No, you're not. You've got to pay for the call, how the call got there. You've got to pay the Google. You know what I mean?
Yep.
You've got to take care of all the marketing. You've got to do the branding. You've got to pay for the website. You've got to pay for the employee who answered the call, the employee who dispatched you, the phone that you're using, the tires that you're driving, the van. Like I had one of my technicians,
Gasoline.
he left
Makeup
my
at-
company, makeup. And he said, after 3 years, he went and started his own business, right? And he came back to me, and after 3 years, he said to me, he closed it. And he said, Sarah, you make running a business look easy. He goes, I would watch you, and I thought, I can do what she's doing. It's, you know, I can do that. I can probably do it even better. He said, it was so hard to run a business. He goes, that I have to come back and apologize to you and give you kudos for everything you've done.
Oh, yeah. Just in managing employees and all the personalities, that in itself feels like a full-time job. You know what I mean? Like making sure your employees are doing what they need to do, that they're getting along, that they're,
I think we should do a podcast on customer service.
oh
Yes.
yes,
That would be a
that would
really
be
good one.
amazing.
Yeah.
Yes.
And
Next one
customer
coming up.
etiquette.
Yes.
Customer etiquette. Yes.
But anyway, back to financial tips. I also want to talk about...
We even talked about finance. We're going to have to do part two.
Part 2.
I want to talk about leveraging the power of like credit and loans and banks, building relationships with banks and bankers. Because although my dad's not in the legal industry, he's not in retail, he's not in real estate, he always taught me, use the bank's money. Don't use your money. As long as you have good credit, use
Yes.
the bank's money. So, for example, Exotica's, I financed that purchase. The construction loan, I'm financing that construction loan. My office, you know what I mean? It's very rare that I do cash deals because that's cash flow I could be using. You know what I mean? And when you have good credit and you have good relationships with bankers, they want to give you loans. They're
Good
dying
credit
to loan.
is so important.
Credit
Banks
is so
are dying
important.
to
Yeah.
give people loans when they know that they are proven themselves to be successful and they have good credit and they have good payment history. Like banks want to give you loans, but you have to build your credit and take care of it. So how do you build credit?
And file your taxes.
And file your taxes every year. Don't ignore it. I hear about a lot of people like it'll just go away if I ignore it.
No, it
It's
never
not
goes
gonna
away.
go away.
And then it's like 2-3 years, and you're like, oh,
You're gonna go- you might go
And
to
it creeps
prison.
up on you really
it creeps
quick.
up on you. Yeah.
You have when you're bringing in that income, you have to also do math on how much to set aside for taxes, right? Like how much for payroll, how much
Sales
for taxes,
tax,
how much,
franchise.
So, for example, what you just said right now about your dad, that's the best tip also. That's one of the best tips because, for example, when I started, I had no idea. I'm not a business major,
Yeah.
nothing like that. Had no idea what I was doing. I was just like, okay, I'm good at cooking. I know I can make juices. I know I can detox people. Like, let me just go for it.
Yeah.
So I started with the $3,000 credit card from Home Depot to start building, right?
Yeah.
I had no credit because at the time I wasn't married. So I didn't have my residency. So I didn't even have a social, you know? So the
Yeah.
business was under my sister first. That was like my little loop to start, you know? Everything was under my sister. But once I got my social, once I started, you know, I had a credit score. The way that I built my credit score was I downloaded the Affirm app, which is like a prepayment, like a credit. How would you say
You
it?
knew about that back then?
I know. I was gonna.
No,
say,
no, no,
I was
I was
like,
just-
I learned
no.
about that recently.
This just happened in 2018, like
Still.
2019.
That was
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
But
Yeah, no,
still.
that
But
was
that's
already
like a 0% interest for a certain amount of months
that
or
was
something.
yes.
Okay.
No, it has
Oh,
it
it
has
has
percentage.
interest.
Yeah, no,
Oh,
it does
okay.
have interest. There's choices, right?
Yeah.
But that's how I built my credit.
Was through Affirm.
With the
Good for
Affirm, yeah, with the
you.
Affirm app. Like it was super easy.
And you were making your payments on time.
I
Do
bought
they take out payments weekly?
No, it's a monthly. It's on a monthly basis. So the way I built it was I think I spent like they gave me like $300 to start off. Like that's the credit that you're playing with. So I bought like a few things on Amazon and I would just pay it. You know, it's like you have to play the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So I just paid it and I just put it like on automatic payments. So I wouldn't even, you just have to make sure that you have the money in your bank account, obviously, so it can just automatically take it out. So I did that and it just built up with, it was, I mean, a matter of like a year and a half, 2 years, but I went probably from like a 500 or like less than that to 700 just with the app. So it was super easy for me. It was automated. Yeah.
To build your credit.
I built it through that. And I always advise people, for example, my sister, she has a horrible credit. So I'm like, dude, download the Affirm app and
buy your stuff.
Yeah, it's so easy. Like to me, it was the easiest way because I did try asking professionals in the credit, subject, and it was more like sending letters out and things here and that. I'm like, I don't even have like debt because I've never had a social.
Like the credit repair people.
Yeah, credit repair people. Got it. So yeah. That's how I build my credit.
That's so interesting and innovative because I've never used Affirm because I'm like so against paying interest, but I did not know that you could do that.
Yeah, and the thing about it is that you have choices. So you can pay it like in a month, in 2 months. Of course, the more time you take, the more interest rate that you have to pay.
Yeah.
But it's very, like, it's really not that much.
But if you're using it as a tool to build credit, then that's an amazing thing to do. I
never
thought
you get to buy things.
Yeah, you get to buy clothes, and it's like, I've seen it where it's like, would you want to pay in full or pay $10 a month or whatever?
So I started with a $300 credit. Now they give me like $5,000.
Wow.
Like, so it's a really easy way to build your credit. That was what I did.
Just starting.
But
for those who need to build their credit. And
you don't think about that. People that are barely getting their Social Security. You know, I mean, and how do they? And
immigrant
a lot of people
story. I love
come.
it. Yeah. No, this is like a full like immigrant entrepreneur like success story that you have, which is those are things that I didn't think about. I didn't have to worry about whether or not I had a Social Security number or you know what I mean, like. Those are things that we take for granted as citizens. So that's an even like more kudos to you for doing that. So, and then like having the discipline, to make those payments every month to make sure that your credit score is getting higher. And not spending
the money.
And not spending the money. Yeah.
A lot of people get credit cards and they're like spend. They're spending money they don't have in the bank. You know what I mean? They're not paying off their balance every month. They're paying the minimum amount, and they're just building up more interest that they owe. You know what I mean? So
also, don't get credit if you can't afford the payment because that's just gonna make it worse.
Yeah.
I have a tip for you. Buy a life insurance where the money accumulates, so that if you ever do need to get a loan, you go get a loan from your own life insurance policy. The interest rate is really reduced and it doesn't hit your credit rating because it's your own money. You're using your own cash surrender value.
Oh, that's such a good tip.
So buy a life insurance policy where you can put some of the money goes into a cash surrender value. Every month you pay, it goes into that kitty. And then at the end of whatever, you have $10,000 and all of a sudden you need to buy some equipment or something happens and you need some extra cash flow. You borrow from that. You turn around and you just continue to pay the loan off.
I have a life insurance policy, but I had no clue that that's even possible. And I don't even know if I have the type of policy that even allows that.
You want to buy a life insurance policy that has that ability.
Accumulates. Is that what it's called?
Yes,
See, I don't
cash
even know
surrender
about
value.
That. Okay. I would have never thought
because
about
then you borrow against yourself. So then, like, let's say you have, $100,000 in cash there and you want to buy a property, you need a down payment or you need something, pull it out from there, turn around and put it down and you borrow against yourself and then you pay yourself back. That's one big tip my parents taught me when I was really young, and they started for us, and so that's been really useful.
That's like...
And pay off your house and your car. Whatever you do, give the extra payments and bring down those debts so that when you do get into a bind or you are in a bind, you're not having to worry about your main things.
Expenses.
Your big payments.
Don't buy a house that's too big for your britches. Start small.
Yeah. I always tell friends of mine who are getting their first credit card, I'm like, look, you were going to spend this money anyway at HEB, right? You were going to pay cash or debit card. Might as well use a credit card. Make sure you pay it off every month. But the money that you were going to spend no matter what, put it on your credit card and pay it off every month. Because you were going to spend that money cash, you might as well build your credit with it. You know what I mean? And they're like, oh, okay. And I'm like, but don't use it don't go on a trip. Don't buy plane tickets. Don't buy designer, whatever. Like, this is like for your expenses that you were going to buy anyway, and that's how you start building your credit. Because a lot of people are strangely scared of credit cards. Have y'all noticed that?
Yeah.
Yeah, especially a lot more of the youth.
Yeah, they're like,
because of all of the information that is out there, and because of the damages that they've seen their parents. I mean, like a lot of the older generation are in massive credit card debt. And you know, their parents are passing away, and they're realizing they have all this debt behind them on credit cards, and they're trying to figure out what they're going to do with property, especially if they're not leaving wills, etc. And then you have to go through probate, and then you end up having to look at paying back some of those debts.
Yeah.
So you want to be careful with using credit card. I wouldn't recommend having more than 2. I mean, I have a lot more than 2 right now, but when you're starting, I wouldn't recommend then you having more than 2. And make sure that if you have multiple businesses, you use your card. Every business has a different credit card, because you want to stick to your bank accounts, easy flow, easy transaction, and it's easy for IRS and tax purposes and everything else to have that one credit card for that one business. And I say that because we have leasing properties. You know, I have a little file that says Sarah's credit cards, Dad's credit cards, construction credit cards, Atlas credit cards, Xplex credit cards, intentionally Bridget, you know?
Yeah.
So you want to make sure that you're keeping those things separated.
This is information that people like literally pay for. These are tips that people like pay for, these kinds of tips.
I think we're definitely going to have to have a part 2.
Yeah, because I feel like we just started.
Yeah, we just barely touched the tip of financial tips. So if you were intrigued by something, or if there's a topic that you want to know more about it, please leave it in the comments so that in our next financial tip episode, we can answer those for you. So thank you guys so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next episode. Bye.